exciting new that's happening? Any interesting news or projects that they've been involved with, or any relevant questions that people have got that we might be able to help as a group to answer?
You want to coordinate that, Richard, or?
So I was just waiting to see if anybody said anything.
Yeah.
I knew it was a vain hope. We've been actually quite busy since the last meeting. Excuse me. We've had a couple of big meetings. I think one, there were 120 people there, another 100 people there, with the Fire Chiefs Council on the 23rd of January deadline, with their proposals for trying to get the various fire authorities to coalesce around a standard set of requirements. At the moment, each fire authority has their own agenda and their own stipulations as to what they need from landlords prior to the 23rd. So the fire chiefs have been trying to actually get something together, put forward a proposal, in the hope that it gives a bit more clarity as to what people are going to actually need to supply. So we had a couple of meetings a month apart with them, with housing associations, primarily housing associations, local authorities, and others. Quite a number of the people in here today have been in those meetings. Sorry, that's using my voice. Along with that, in tandem with that, I've been holding one-to-one meetings with a number of housing associations and local authorities to see sort of how they're approaching it, what they're looking at doing. And I'm just starting tying some of those into more group meetings, 4 or 5 people, just having a chat, explaining what they're doing, how it's working for them, the pitfalls they're coming across. Just kind of a knowledge share of the different ways people are doing things. Anybody here who I've not spoken to yet who wants to get involved in that, please drop me a line. I've got a meeting tomorrow, Thursday, with several people who are on this call, which I'm looking forward to. So that's kind of an update centrally, if you like, from that. Has anybody got anything to say on that at all? That'll be a no then. Okay. Along with that, George has been doing quite a lot of stuff on the embodied carbon, which is something that we kind of touch on tangentially every now and then, but not in any great concentration in terms of the groups as a whole. George, do you want to have a bit of a run through on that stuff?
Yeah, sure. So what we obviously had we had the sustainability group work stream with Quadro and Omar working on that last year. But I think it's such a big topic and so complex that it wasn't something that we could do just on our own. So what we've done is we helped establish something called Zero, which is a community of people who are subject matter experts in carbon, and that's grown hugely. So they've effectively been our sustainability group, and Zero. We started with there was 20 of us last sort of August, and we're now over 1,000. And we've held workshops in the last period, but we've also had some big.
Sorry, George, can I interrupt you? Somebody's got their mic on and it's making some very strange sounds. Could you just make sure your mics are all muted? Thanks.
Yeah. So what the reason I'm saying this is that it's principally our focus within Zero is not in the operational carbon. So it's not specifically to this group. It's actually on embodied carbon during the construction period. So how can we get this through? But this is the Zero website, and so if you're interested, if this is something that what we've been doing is also using the templater, where the one of the fundamental things that needs to be sorted, we've discovered, is that we've got environmental product declarations, which is obviously, I say obviously, it's the thing that is the manufacturer's representation of what carbon their products have got in them. And one of the challenges.
George, can I just interrupt you and ask you something?
Yeah, go ahead.
You're talking about embodied carbon. Now,
yes.
there used to be a lot of talk about embedded carbon.
I think
which I think is a misnomer, because that embedded means it's actually in something, doesn't it? With embodied carbon, you're talking about the carbon that's used in the manufacture of something, the transportation of something, all of that. Is that correct?
Absolutely. It goes through the whole process and defines what information is needed at different stages. There are what we've done. Some of you will have come across before the templater that we built with the BRE, and that has got in it an environmental product information set, and there are 280 data points that providers have got to provide their information on, which is amazingly complex. So therefore, what we're trying to do is make that simpler. So there's lots of specialist groups now that are actually collecting together all this information, and what we're trying to do is make it simpler, so that if Fleur, for example, on one of her projects is wanting to understand what the ESG value should be on it, it's actually coming from a reliable source of information. That's our intention. So we're on a journey, but if you're interested in that, having that reliable information, then we, I can plug you into some of the people that we're working with. We're also relating it back to the 250 or so asset types that we've been developing with HACT and the for the Housing Association, or the BIM4Housing standards, data standards. Does that help, Richard?
Can I just ask what's the end game for using that environmental information? Is this ESG getting a measure, getting a grip on the embodied carbon in a building so we can measure that, or are we then going to do some modelling with the information we've got to try and work out how to optimise the operational phase of it?
Well, the principal thing initially, Alex, is to look at this from a construction perspective, and that is giving people the information that they need to make better decisions or alternative decisions as to what product to use, or maybe not just what products to use, but how is it going to be installed, and how is it going to be procured, for example. So at the moment, that information is provided far too late for people to make decisions. What we're trying to do is make it so that people can make those decisions, can have the power to make those decisions earlier, and therefore select products that are going to provide a lower carbon footprint. I'm not the expert at all on this. I'm just bringing together people that are. The result of that, though, Alex, is that we'll know what products and materials go into the buildings, and the information about, for example, gas consumption or whatever, you then end up with the core information that you actually need to be able to know how to reduce the energy utilization, for example, and also, and this is really important, the recycling of the products and of the materials that go to make up the building. So being able to, it's part of a much bigger initiative. BRE had a project called Buildings as a Material Bank, where they used the templater to actually identify what information was needed to manage the recycling process, because the view is that more and more of the materials and products that go into new buildings need to be reprocessed or recycled from existing ones. But to do that, you need to know what was in the original product so that you can determine whether it can or can't be recycled. Anyway, that's it. It's something I'm sort of spending a lot of my personal time getting involved with to really get something back that's then standard libraries that we can all use.
So what is the focus on that, George? I mean, Zero, that's kind of not exactly part of us, but we're affiliated with, I suppose you would say, would you?
Yes, definitely.
Yeah, so it's kind of directly relevant to obviously to all of us as well. So I mean, I've looked at the web, to be honest, I've looked at the website, and I didn't find it totally clear exactly what the aim was. I understand what the overarching aim is, but I'm not saying, I didn't really kind of get, maybe that was me, but I didn't really get what the process is, what the steps are, what what sort of output can we expect and when? What are the steps?
Yeah, well, it's a good point. What we're doing at the moment, rather than it just being a talking shop, there's quite a lot of effort and resource going into creating a playbook. So the playbook covers all the different activities that we're going to need to follow to improve the overall objective. So I'd be quite happy to organise a session where the teams. I'm putting in.
Sorry, is that a playbook for that we can? Who's we? Is it set down for different stakeholders? Have different? Yes. So it's going to be granular.
Oh yeah, no, absolutely. It's right. Very granular, I think probably it would be worth setting up a session, Richard, for an hour. I can get some of the leads from that to just come through and spend 5 minutes on each of the elements, and then people can decide whether they feel as
I think that could be. I think that's definitely the case. Obviously, lots going on within Zero. I think we need to bring some of that back into BIM4Housing for us to actually see it and contribute to it more directly with our existing membership, if that makes sense.
Yeah, I guess the question is, I mean, I know Jack was particularly interested, because of his background. You were interested in the environmental side of things very much, weren't you, Jack, at one stage?
Yeah, absolutely. Still am.
So does that, let's throw it out to people. Who else is actually, what are you doing then? Are you actually doing anything sort of like now, your company along this agenda, along this route? Or is it something that's just in the back of your head?
Yeah, we're as the kind of the team I'm in at the moment, which is the building safety team. We're looking at potentially doing something along this to understand our impacts. But yeah, I mean, across the wider organisation, there are things being put in place to try and understand that as well.
Okay, is that something you're doing kind of sort of off your own bat, or is it part of an initiative that you've seen somewhere, or some sort of guidelines you've seen somewhere, or is it all just stuff you've basically you've come up with yourselves?
Yeah, it'll just be stuff we're coming up with ourselves. It'll just be kind of carbon footprinting exercise. Basically.
Yeah. Okay. What about anybody else? Is anybody else doing anything? Well, I'm sure people are doing anything, but what are you doing? Who? Somebody talk to me. Okay, that means I'm going to have to pick on people. Bex, it's you. What are you guys doing?
Is this in terms of the green agenda?
Yeah.
I'm afraid. I I'm mainly building safety.
Oh right, so
I
it's not really your bag anyway.
Not really my bag. I'm probably the wrong person to talk to about this, so please pick on someone else.
Okay. Okay, who else? Who else can we see that is going to have some interesting input onto this?
I mean,
Yeah.
I have some involvement, obviously, with our development team. I deal with the handover of new buildings into our operational portfolio. Our primary focus really is on the sustainability of the energy strategies and all of that type of thing as a priority, preventing overheating and all of those types of things, rather than necessarily looking at the embodied carbon in the kit. We are looking obviously at our construction methods and trying to make those as sustainable as possible. But at present, I don't think embodied carbon is part of our focus, but certainly I think would be in the not too distant future. So I can certainly see there being considerable value, I guess, in really modelling RERs with sort of that sort of requirement, and looking at a process of justification certainly being required as to why one would choose a product with a higher embodied carbon. But I suppose it's also measuring that off against performance and reliability, and all of that type of thing, because ultimately if it doesn't work as well and you need two of them instead of one in a shorter period of time, then I think it's trying to find that level of data, I guess, that would assist in understanding life cycle replacement, and so the sort of from an operational perspective, looking at it from that perspective, not just in the original installation and in construction, but it's through its operational life cycle.
So really, what we and Zero are doing with the playbook, it sounds like everybody's at very, very early stages, because it's just such a. I guess to some extent it's so complex you don't even know where to start, do you? But if we've got a playbook that takes us nicely, or a granular playbook that takes it down by stakeholder, duty holder, role, however, whatever it's split down, that gives it a path, a coherent path through, because you need to know where the first steps are, don't you, before you can do anything.
I think one of the big the interesting things is that as far as development's concerned, developers are getting and construction companies, they're getting better interest rates if they can demonstrate that they are complying with ESG values. Now the problem is that because the information isn't very clear in terms of how you arrive at those figures, they can be wildly wrong. And I think increasingly people are going to be, well, I know from the conversations that we're having that people are starting to ask more questions. It's not just a matter of, what is the carbon for that building, but how did you arrive at it? How do you audit that? How did you, because it can make a big difference in terms of the interest rates that people are providing. So as you can imagine, that's yeah, and the NEC4, which is the new one of the new contracts, they're putting clauses in that where the responsibility and liability for providing the right product, or a product that is sustainable, as Fleur was saying there, what products have been swapped out for what? It's often cost, isn't it? That's, to be frank, or it might be availability, what's the impact on that on sustainability. But that's that. The other thing that we've been that I think the fire thing, just whilst we're talking, can I go on to that, Richard?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
So what I was going to say is that since we've had the last operations group meeting, which was a couple of months ago, the fire safety side of things has accelerated, because I think people have realised that the 23rd of January, which is the deadline for the Fire Safety Act, is coming up very quickly. And what I didn't realise until a couple of months ago is that it's nothing to do with the Building Safety Regulator. It's actually the regulator for the Fire Safety Act comes under the Home Office. And as Richard was saying earlier, it's actually the individual fire brigades that are the regulators, and there's 43 of them, and they don't have a standard set of requirements. So we've got a target of the 23rd of January to provide the information that is needed to satisfy the Act, but it's by no means clear as to what has got to be provided. So what we've been trying to do is to, as a community, that's why we had, as Richard said, 130 people join one of the workshops, which was about a month ago. Then we had another one last week, which was then the feedback from the fire chiefs. We had the National Fire Chiefs Council do a presentation of what they are doing. They're trying to coordinate things as far as that's concerned. But what we're trying to do is make sure that when people are commissioning, because what people are doing at the moment to be able to hit the deadline, they're commissioning surveys, to produce drawings. But those drawings, depending on how they do them, they could be just a dead end, because they won't include the information, that they won't be able to be updated to include the information we need for the Building Safety Act. So what we're trying to do at the moment is say, how can we do this in such a way that the simple floor plans that are needed by the fire brigade can be added to create the information that's needed, maybe to say what's the wall construct between two flats, and that's the work that we've been following through. So if anybody's interested, we've been doing a pilot with Tower Hamlets. They've got 78 blocks, and what we're doing, we're just about to start working with them over the next year to get them for them to be able to collate all that information together using some fairly advanced laser scanning.
This is for the Building Safety Act, George, or just for the fire thing?
It's focused on the fire safety at the moment, because that's the one that is the deadline, but they're doing it in such a way that they can then add the information that they need later. And I know Kelly's a long way down the line as well on that. Kelly, do you want to say something?
Hi, yeah, sorry about that, and I was a bit late, so I do apologise. We've had the first set of our drawings through that have come off the back of our laser scanning, and I'm happy to show you now. Apologies, I couldn't make the meeting the other day, so Paul came in place of me, so, and I've only just got the plans through. And it's kind of really to show what you can do out of the back of the scanning. These plans have now gone to London Fire Brigade, and they're having a look at those for us just to see if it incorporates everything that they want. And the plans that we've created should now do everything from the Fire Safety Act and the Building Safety Act as well. So I was just trying to find them. I'm happy to.
Sorry, Kelly, where are you from?
Orbit.
Orbit. I beg your pardon. Thank you.
Yeah, I'm just seeing. sorry, I've got so many files open at the minute. I'm just trying to find where they are. And then I'll show. These are literally a first cut. So we've had a lot of comments back on them, basically, to make them a bit more usable with changing some colours and things like that. Let me see if I can find. So this is the site plan. Come on, it's coming. It'll take it's loading now, right. And obviously these can be all adapted really, really easily. Once we get them into our common data environment, it's something that we can adapt as well. So that's going to be the first site plan. Like I said, we've got more information to put in. We're changing some of the colours around. We're trying to incorporate on this particular site plan to show the position of all the blocks, the access into the estate, showing the different heights, obviously the Building Safety Act height, the height of the building. And then this is just the lower floor. So we tried to incorporate where the trucks would get access to, the bits of the building. Some of the key colours have got to change, and obviously it's a bit wonky at the moment. We don't know how that happened, but we've got to kind of adapt that. We're going to put in some site levels as well, because it's on different, the heights of the different levels. And then we've got the key below to give all of the information. So we've pretty much covered all of the guidance that's out there for the information boxes, because it is the guidance says lots of different things, so we've tried to incorporate it into one document and put everything on there. But that's what you can do from the scanning point of view when you build up the modelling. So we think it's pretty good, really.
Yeah.
So are you going to produce the girder plans?
So this is what will go into the boxes. Yeah, so that's just the estate plan. Yeah. Then obviously we've got some of the, let's have a look at the block section plans. So then we've obviously got the block section plan that we can put within here as well. Yeah. Shows the positioning, and even those trees are exactly where everything is on the estate. We tried to make everything exact, and then we can do the typical ground floor plan. So again, it's a little bit wonky, but these are kind of the plans. And what we've tried to do is make it 3D so it looks more realistic. And then obviously do your set plan as well. Obviously that looks quite small when it's printed on bigger paper, but here this then shows we've got the compartmentation lines in there, because obviously we've done all that drilling, so we know what it all is. And again, brings us back to the key. Yeah, so that's what we're doing for each of those blocks on there. And like I said, we're kind of for this site where we've done the full BIM scanning intrusive works, we're going to pull together our utopia, get that signed off by London Fire Brigade, and then that is how we'll mirror in each of the premises information boxes as we go along with the BIM project. In the short term, the plans, we've got an internal person just drawing up the CAD plans as a short term, so we'll have all those in the boxes by the January deadline. But then over the next 12 months, as we scan all the buildings, we'll produce these to replace those, so they're in more detail. But the benefit of it is that updating is the fact that we can go in here at any point and update anything and replace them. And we have actually bounced the idea of doing them on A2, but printing them off in waterproof paper, being able to fold them as well. So we've bounced that idea with London Fire Brigade. If they actually want them bigger, because we can make them more detailed, will they be viewable better on bigger paper, fold them up so we can get them in there as well. So we've kind of put lots of different ideas with them on that.
I think, Kelly, you said that you're doing 20, is that right?
We've got 23 in scope buildings, but what came out of our pilot was we are going to do the estate now, because what we found on Beckton Place particularly was a lot of the services joined together with some of the low rise blocks as well. So we thought it was really important that where we've got the lower rise on the estate, we're going to do the whole estate, because the other bit around the Fire Safety Act is understanding how the trucks will get into the estate so that we can show the ways in and out. So we're going to do full estates now for all of it moving forward.
Okay. And I think you shared with me what sort of budget cost you were having. I don't know if that's something that you're
yeah,
able to share.
It's averaging 50,000 per in scope building. Obviously we're going to pay a little bit more for some of the lower rise, but I think that will be quite an insignificant cost really with the lower rise, because they're not going to be intricate details. So I think a lot of that will be kind of part of the main project. Yeah, we've seen that already. We went out to a large estate that had one in scope built on a platform, so we have to do the whole of the estate, which is 10 other blocks. Some of them are really low and some of them are close to 18 metres, and we weren't getting anywhere near the £50,000 per block. It was a lot cheaper. So where you're doing it in a large capacity, those costs are coming down as well.
Yeah, so you're going to have economies of scale.
Yeah.
But you're still looking at quite a big investment, aren't you? That's
1.5 million, to do these. Yeah. But
you've got a good base set to actually do lots of things with. I think the interesting thing with that what we were just talking about earlier, which is the carbon side of things, those models can be presumably used to overlay additional information that, you know, maybe about how the construction is done and things like that, so that you can feed into that type of work.
Yeah, we've built into our suite of documents for BIM all of the energy efficiency stuff and savings, waste products, carbon, net zero carbon and stuff. But we've got an environmental team that are working with us to build that up as well, so that we can actually work with them to be able to look at that side of things and the sustainability. And that will really come where we found out that particularly these blocks need some work doing to them. And we'll work with that team to be able to deliver that from a sustainability point of view as well. And we wouldn't have done that without these models.
That's brilliant. I found that very helpful. How about anybody else on the call? Can anybody else explain to us where they are? Hi, Jack.
Yep. So we've done something fairly similar, but are doing it internally. So we've not quite done the same in terms of the 3D model part of the drawings to go in, but so I'll just give an example of. So ours is just kind of floor plans and a bit more basic in terms of rather than, it's not particularly well, having a key with symbols on it. It's, you can't see, it's not showing up very well on there. That says AD, that says LI. So it just for so that's automatic detection, lighting. So we've done the same, but obviously just we're doing these things internally. So we're hiring our laser scanner. We've got a Revit technician internally. So we've done quite a number. We've probably done 20 odd buildings now.
How many do you have in scope?
About 80. Depends how you define a building, but yeah. Sure. Yeah, so we're working towards that. We will have I think in terms of working towards our safety case, we're gathering what drawings we have for our existing buildings from development, from you know, planning portals, etc. And then we'll be marking up on there to create something that will work as a kind of interim until we've done that. But hopefully by probably early 2024, we'll have done all our buildings in that way.
Anybody else? Brett, have you, how are things going with you?
Yeah, hi George. It's been a while, I missed a few meetings, sorry about that. I'm actually, we haven't got any in-scope buildings at present. We're merging with another association, so we will have. So basically, I'm sitting here waiting for the transition to come and waiting to see what the information they're getting. So all this is really interesting. So I've got a bit of a benchmark to see what everybody else is doing. So at the present, I'm okay. We don't have to supply any of these drawings. We have to comply with the other parts of the fire safety regulations that are applicable below 18 meters, obviously. But so we're working hard on that at the moment. So it's really just waiting to see on this transition period where we're going to be in the next few months, really.
Brilliant. Anybody else? Sorry, is somebody speaking? Isan? Was that you? I think your microphone's not working. Is there anybody else that's got that could show us where they're at? I can see Luke on the call. Do you know?
So I've actually changed roles recently, and I've moved to a contract manager. So I haven't been looking at this stuff for a little while. I know, for example, we have our information that went into our premise information boxes that were basic fire plans.
Yeah.
But I don't know where we are with the fire safety stuff yet. But I'm going to be asking around and find out where we are with it.
Good.
Yeah.
Okay. Thank you. I can see. Is that Paul White from Enfield that's on as well? I can see Paul White on the call.
No, it's me, George. Fire damper.
Sorry,
Sorry.
we've got two Paul Whites, haven't we?
No, it's the ubiquitous Paul White.
Is it worth me just showing the sort of work that we've been doing briefly on Tower Hamlets? Would anybody like to see that?
Yeah, I'd like to see that. Yeah.
Yeah, that'd be good, George.
Yeah.
Okay, so what we're doing here is we're starting. They've got 78 blocks in their portfolio, and they don't have a huge budget at all. So what they're doing is they're doing progressively what what Kelly was just showing earlier in doing laser scans of certain buildings, but that's going to take them probably a year to do. And what they want to do is have something in place as soon as possible, so that they've at least got something underway. So what we've done is something quite simple. We've taken a spreadsheet of just their properties. So we've got there at the basic level, and we're going to add into this the UPRNs for the flats themselves. And we've actually pulled them into Active Plan, and that's actually been generated from the spreadsheet. So we can also then, because we integrate with Google Maps, we can then have them there, so you can navigate through the individual properties. And again, from the spreadsheet, nothing else, this has all been created. So the attributes that are in this field have all come directly from the spreadsheet, and you can then connect directly through to Google Maps. So this is really, really low cost way of getting something underway. It can be done in just, a day or a couple of days. What we've also done though is we've started to gather information on the higher risk blocks. So this is a 18-story block in Tower Hamlets that has got quite a lot of work that needs to be done to it, and is being done to it. So this is just an example of the key documents that they can put in. So they can put those in as documents and then register against them. If they've got the type of standard plans, they can put those in as well. So it's a matter of just collecting what information have they already got about the building, so that they've got it in one place to be able to do that, and also more technical information if that's so. It's a matter really of just communicating with the rest of the team to pull together the information. And then so what this has done, it's been successful in getting them to think on a more incremental way. So here we've got spaces that we've got some 360 photos of those spaces, so they can actually use that to go and, for example, tag the assets that are in there. The surveyors, I think this is the sort of thing that that Kelly would have been using. These generate the point cloud as you're walking through. It's quite an expensive bit of kit these surveyors are using here, but it works at 7 times the speed of doing laser scans normally. So it becomes possible to do a complete building in a day. And then the floor plans that have been produced from that, they just come through as CAD plans, which in our case, we import them into Active Plan. So that's now the Active Plan that provides containers for the information to be held against. And this has been really helpful because it's enabling the council to see how they can engage other parts of the organisation to get involved. So maybe even get tenants to take 360 photos. I mean that's me suggesting that. That's not them, but that's the idea. And then pull that through in that sort of way. So it's a way of really building a community of people who can. They're replacing all the fire alarm systems, so you can see there the cables, but they can go and tag each of these 360 photos with the information, and it goes in and builds a database of asset information. And then the last thing is, this is just an example of what we've done with PRP, taking the safety case information, the models that they've created for that, and that's just doing the same sort of thing that I think you've probably seen before. But it's a matter of going from nothing to, when you've got the information that's maybe been collected for other purposes, you've then got something that you can build on. And the information in this particular case, like in Kelly's example, you can go into an individual asset, and then to be able to say, right, that door is actually that type of door. So anyway, that's our principal idea, is to make it so that you can come at it from both ends. When you've got the funds to be able to do the job properly, and you create those detailed models, that's coming at it from one end. The other is just pulling together, because what I've just shown you there, I think we're probably going to have an asset information model for the estate within a few weeks, albeit at a very basic level. But at least you've got a container to put the information into. So that's the approach that we're taking there.
I think from what I know at the moment, that's the issue that we've got in our company, is none of our IT systems at the moment have containers for the information. So that's where the last I remember things going on, that's where they was looking at that, how they're going to collect it. Yeah, I think that's probably quite a common issue across the industry, actually.
Yeah.
Kelly, what are you doing with yours? I mean, you're collecting all this information, you're doing all your scans, you're making your plans. Where's it all actually going? Where's it sitting?
Yeah, so we're just in the middle of procuring a common data environment. We're just about to go out to tender for that. So all of that information will drop into a system like what George has just shown. And then because it's not going to sit in our main asset system, it will API into our main asset system. So they'll both talk to each other. So we'll have that one source of the truth, but we'll have the common data environment so that we can keep everything updated. We've now employed a Revit person, so his responsibility is ensuring that that's up to date, but it gives us the benefit that surveyors, anybody that goes out on site, will be able to electronically update information, send it into the common data environment for us to assess and decide if changes need making and things like that. So it's kind of a whole encompassing system that we're going to be kind of working with for these. And then obviously at the end of it, we'll have all 23 estates in there. And then the idea is potentially we'll be looking to roll it out to our complex buildings and other ones in the future, in the next kind of couple of years. So we'll eventually get some level of modelling, scanning data for a lot of our bigger complex buildings.
Yeah, I mean, what I've discovered is that there's lots of different activities that go on where people collect information for a different purpose. So there's you know, Multivista and people like that are doing scans for either driven by architects or for landlords, but it might be just to look at the recladding side of things. So they do part of the job, or the scope of what they do may mean that they're also doing some internal scans, but it's driven by a particular project, which might be a remediation project or a decarbonisation project or something like that. Somebody else might be doing something as a condition survey for decent homes or something. And what I've discovered over the years of dealing with housing associations and councils is that often those different groups are collecting the information for their own, understandably, for their own purpose, but you end up then with silos of information that are not joined up and are often sort of conflicting. So the purpose of what we're doing there is really to just engage with those various different data sets and pull them together into a place that they can then, you know, federate them. And then, as Kelly's saying there, when you, because I think there's quite a few people on the call that, for example, are implementing Microsoft Dynamics for you know, it within their organization, but it might be, you know, another year, 2 years, 5 years before they're ready to put all the asset information in as well. So what we're doing is providing that as an interim way of getting there.
We've already seen the benefit of it. Just as an example, we have a roof leak on one of these blocks, and we were able to, within like 10 minutes, pull off a drawing to show the detailed roof information, and then a snapshot, a slice of the building, pinpointing where the water's coming into those flats. We could then see where that was leading and the breaches from the roof, and linking that in with the services. So understanding the internal rainwater pipes, linking to where the water was coming and a breach in the roof. So already we were able to do that. Those plans have gone off to a contractor to kind of assess in more detail, but we would have been working blind if we didn't have that. That's saved so much time and money already, being able to work out the problems that we've got on these very, very, you know, significant buildings.
Yes, I mean, what I think is interesting is that the work that we've been doing, that Paul White, who's the ventilation expert, rather than from Enfield Council, Paul's been working with us on the fire side of things, and one of the challenges there for example. I think we had an interesting conversation the other day, didn't we, Paul, on the session where there was a perception that that the AOV needed to be checked every quarter because that's what SFG 20 tells you to do. Whereas actually, from a fire safety point of view, the point that you were making, well, do you want to explain? Otherwise, I'm just talking.
Well, in theory, any active systems, if you're checking for faults, then you should be checking every day. But the issue with most of these systems is they're passive. So they're only sitting there doing nothing and waiting for an alarm. So if you don't trigger an alarm, you'll never see a fault. Now, some people might see that as an advantage, but the point is that if you look at BS 9999, there's a whole a much more comprehensive set of instructions, which is probably over the top, but it's a little bit similar to you test your fire alarms every week. Why aren't you simulating an alarm for your going into the smoke control system and seeing if that works, as a for instance?
And I think you were saying that weekly check or something like that, because it's a life critical system, is something that probably should be being implemented.
Yes, exactly. So it's hopefully you wouldn't think about not testing your fire alarms every week, and your fire alarms trigger other things like smoke control systems.
Yeah. I mean, the other thing that we're using extensively now, with I see Joe on the call from Sodexo, is 360 photos. So what Sodexo are doing, they're using these 350, 400 pound cameras to just go into each space, in particular on hospitals, but also on student accommodation, and they take a 360 photo, which is then tied back to the space, and they can then go and tag they can have subject matter experts who don't need to visit the site to actually go through and identify what assets are in there, and also any hazards that they can see that that there might be, because for example, there's an issue with fire stopping or something like that. So it's a matter of perhaps doing things from several different directions for different purposes, but then I think gluing it together.
Okay, so I'm just trying to think. Has anybody got anything they want to raise themselves outside of the subjects we're talking about? If so, now's the time to do it. Driving to my rescue is Jack.
Well, I appreciate all the kind of people are saying at the moment. I would really like in these kind of things to hear more from the people that are doing it. So Kelly, about not just seeing the kind of outputs, but I'd love to hear about in terms of when you're specifying the work done, what are the lessons learned, what are the successes, and the kind of a bit more of a kind of dive into what your learning has been, what's been a successful hook when talking to people, that kind of thing. It's great to hear. It's great to hear some of the things. George's presentation for this.
That's what I'm doing with my one-to-one meetings. Literally that. No, you will be getting an invite. Don't worry.
No, I'm not. No, I'm not saying I want to get in it. I want, I'm hearing George's presentation for the second time, and as much as like it, George. Let
me explain. Let me explain the reason I'm doing it like this, because what I'm doing is having one-to-one meetings, then getting 4 or 5 who are people together in a small group who've all taken different approaches, and to do exactly what you're saying, to sit down, relax, what's worked, what hasn't worked, what bit is there a learning curve on, what bit is don't do this, so that people are a bit more open and more likely to chat in a smaller group. Because what you're finding, even as soon as you get a group of 9-10 people, certainly if it's more than that, half the group's not going to say anything, probably 3/4 of the group, and people are less open. Whereas if it's just a few people together, we get that kind of feedback from everybody, which is what I'm doing now. If that makes sense.
So what's the expectation for this meeting then? What are we doing here?
What are we doing here with this meeting?
Yeah,
George.
Yeah, this is the 2 monthly catch-up meeting to share.
Yeah, but so what's if it's not kind of sharing lessons learned and ideas like that, then what?
It is. That's what we've been trying to do. I think we've been asking people. I mean, I wouldn't have shown that Tower Hamlets one if everybody had got something. So, you know, I was really using that just as a filler to some extent. So you showed yours, yeah, and so did Kelly, but yeah. So I absolutely agree with you. This meeting should be about positioning what's happening. So I think we did that. Also explaining what's happening on the sustainability front, which obviously is, I think, you know, most people's purview at the moment. But then it's also a matter of you know, the sessions that Richard's doing. Which, are you going to record those as well, Richard?
No, the whole point of those is the group.
Private.
The groups. It's a bit private, so you can be a bit more open than you might be in an open session that's recorded. That's part of the idea, just to get a proper feel. People are more relaxed, aren't they?
Yeah.
I think the difficulty is, I see where you're coming from, Jack, but I think the difficulty is that there's a very small handful of people that are really far forward. So that learning is probably not there yet. So we're still obviously wrapping up our first project, and we have gone really big on our first project, you know, and that was the point of building up our procurement documents ready to go out to procurement. So we have got lessons learned, but I think there's still very limited people that are where we are, particularly when I'm talking to people trying to kind of see what everybody else is doing. They're not quite there yet. I think that's going to come with time, and it's just going to take that time to be able to get that. And I do think that's a shared value, and definitely we need to have those discussions. But I think, like what Richard's just said, it really is going to be a very small group of people who have got to where we are so far.
Yeah, and I get that. I guess I'm putting myself in the position of, if I hadn't got there, I would like to know, you know, what mistakes had been made, so I didn't just go ahead and make them when I, you know, get to starting it. That's all. You know, I don't think it's only the people who are down the line that want to hear, you know, lessons learned. I don't think that's it. So
no, absolutely, that's absolutely true. But once I've completed a cycle of these meetings, we can have a meeting. We can have I can present, or it can be presented, the results of that, the findings, if you like, the sharings, without them being necessarily attributed to anyone specifically. Now, in that circumstance, people are going to be more open, and we want that openness. Yeah, very much like our old black box thing, if you remember, the anonymous reporting of critical issues, critical events. People are more likely to be open and sharing if it's not being recorded, and if it can be presented anonymously. Now, maybe that's wrong, but that's my feeling.
So I guess for me it would be, you know, I would like to know, you know, when something is spoken about, you know, Kelly there, I would like to be able to say, oh, well, you know, what did you specify, you know, in terms of data requirements? How did you do that? Did you split that, or did you think we'll get it internally and work it up? You know, I think this, you know, I don't necessarily just want to be presented at, you know, because it will be different for
I'm
different
not
people.
saying necessarily that that's all you're going to get. I'm saying it's one of the things you're going to get.
Fine. I'm just trying to tell you what I would like, what I think.
Yeah, and I'm just trying to tell you what we're trying to deliver, and we'll try and deliver what you like as well, Jack.
Yeah.
We're also trying to deliver what other people like. And the reason I'm doing these small meetings is because after 25 individual meetings, virtually every single person said to me they thought it was a good idea to have a small, quiet, semi-intimate chat, 4 or 5 of them. So I'm doing what they want. Yeah?
And at no point have I said that that's not a good idea. I'm asking about what we're trying to do here if we're not trying to work out those
Yeah,
things.
and as Kelly says, I think that's basically that what you're asking for people to present or give you their experiences that they haven't got them yet.
No, that's not what I'm doing. I'm not saying I would like, I'm just saying a bit more, what I would like is a bit more opportunity to speak to people about what they've done.
Well, you can speak to anybody on the call now about what they've done.
Well, you just said they don't want to share, so
No,
No,
I didn't say that at all.
No, sorry, that's a misunderstanding. Right, what Richard is saying is that the people that, you know, for example, Isan, I think, is from Guinness. Are you able to speak, Isan? I think
his mic was dodgy.
Yeah, I think your microphone. So, for example, Isan hasn't volunteered. I think possibly because his microphone's not working. But it might be that Guinness aren't quite in a position yet to be able to show things. So what Richard's doing is trying to engage with people on a one-to-one basis, just to find out whether, you know, where they are on the journey, you know, and then what he's done with the group that he's meeting tomorrow. There's 3. I think there's Bex. Who are the 3, Richard, that you're meeting with tomorrow?
Bex, Claire Williams, and Gentoo.
Okay. So
and should be high, but they've had to rearrange.
Yeah. So that small group, therefore, they're going to explain to each other what they're doing. Now, that's I mean, clearly, if we're more organised than this, Jack, and remember that we're all volunteers, so we're just trying to do the best that we can. I think probably we follow up with you know, from that they can then determine if they're happy to share that maybe with the wider group. So we then can organise something. The next session, if people feel this is a worthwhile thing to do, because that's the other point, but I think it probably is with the deadlines coming up. Then we can do that. That's what I would suggest. Because, you know, for example, within Clarion, Ed Costa's work, he's doing a slightly different thing, isn't he? For oh, that's my impression anyway, talking to him, than than obviously what you're doing.
Yeah, so he works on the safety case rather than the golden thread.
Yes, yeah, and I think particularly I mean, certainly what he said to me is he's focused on producing the plans for the Promised Information Box. I think, is that right or not? I've got that wrong.
No.
Right. But he told me that there's a team of CAD technicians that are doing floor plans.
They are working up on some parts of things, yeah, the CAD team.
Right, okay, yeah. So anyway, good. All right. So I guess so is have we lost Alex? Are you on the call, Alex, still?
Yeah, I'm still here, but I'm moving in the car, so I'm being as quiet and as diplomatic as possible.
Yeah, sure. Okay, well, Alex, we've been doing quite a lot of obviously this type of show and tell stuff, which you may not have been able to see, but it's been recorded, so you can catch up on it. From the from your side, from very much the operations side, which isn't particularly what we've been talking about for most of this session. Is there anything you want to cover in terms of what we should be doing on the asset management side of things?
Well, there's one question that I wanted to bring up just as a discussion point rather than any particular viewpoint that I've got, which is, and this isn't wanting to do a disservice to any other groups who are working on these matters, but BIM4Housing associations have recently issued version 2 of their toolkit, which I know is going to get a lot of downloads, lots of people looking at. And it was interesting to note, it doesn't appear to have suggestions for holding coordinate or location information. And I was just, in retrospect of everything that we've seen on the meeting so far today regarding floor plans, layouts, visualization, in my mind, location information, spatial information is absolutely critical to what we're doing. For example, for the provision of that information for floor plans, for the building information boxes, for the emergency services. Also for the ideas of being able to ask or use this information multiple ways, just addressing the point about the fact that, George, you raised, lots of people are visiting, effectively we're digging the same hole several times to get different sets of information. But location information seems to be the critical key that can hold everything together. I was just wondering, perhaps not George, not Richard, not Jack, with respect, has anyone else got any views or opinions on the collection of building information that doesn't include location or apparently spatial information? Have I missed something, or is it actually that BIM4Housing associations have missed something? Maybe it'll come in version 3 of their toolkit. I wish I had my camera on and you could see the tumbleweed. Maybe people haven't looked at it. Have people downloaded the toolkit? Has anyone had a look at it? Tried to apply it?
I think you need to pick on a couple of people, Alex.
Well, unfortunately, I can't see who's actually on the call at the moment. So, but if people don't want to volunteer, if people haven't looked at it, that's an entirely different matter.
Yeah, you excluded me from contributing, Alex.
I did. Okay. You can all those participants can now unmute. That's fine. You can go ahead, George. Have you got? Obviously, you have a view. Carry on.
Yeah, I do have a view, and obviously the location of things I think is critical. Now, whether it needs to be at for everything at an XYZ coordinate level, or whether it is just tied back to a space, I think there can be a discussion on that, and I think it's also not just about the individual assets, it's also information about spaces or documents about spaces and things like that. So I think the location information is critical. How is that held in? How's things going with CX, Alex? Is that?
Yeah. So CX. Yeah. So this is. I don't want to turn this into an advert for Civica's products, but yeah. So CX has got location information in it now, allowing us to record a link to space. We've got a 4-level hierarchy that we're using, and we're introducing the spatial area, the spatial positioning as well. So currently we've got level, room, and location within the room, and then we have a parameter called position. So we've got 4 identifiers which can be roughly mapped to a space in BIM speak. And we've got that information for asbestos materials, as well as appliances, or that is equipment, or components. What we call components. That's just our terminology.
That's great. So you can hold the location of items, the XYZ coordinate.
Yes, that's correct. So we've got a field that will allow us to record that information, and I think we need to go more than just X, Y, Z, because we want to hold volume information as well, and those are going to be held as what we call attributes in the system. So there'll be a way to record and generate models. We've got some visual representation of things as well. So recently produced a diagnostics tool for repairs reporting, which customers can plug into their website. So when a resident is reporting a problem with their building, making a repair request, they can go through a wizard which includes visualization of the spaces that they want to report for. So they can say, my problem is in my kitchen, it's in my garden, it's in my my bedroom 1, or whatever it might be. When they're reporting a fault or a repair request, making a repair request. And at the moment that's really generic, but the plan there is to hold specific information, so they would see their actual floor plans, a rendered form of their rooms in terms of size when they're actually making that repair request, to make it more personal.
Yes, that sounds great.
Yeah, I mean, but it is just what it is. So to link into the spatial information, it's not, at the moment, I want to build it all up so that we can incorporate the whole lot of handed over information for new build and construction, COBie data sets, but equally enhance that for, for example, the multiple attributes that you're seeing in active plan. We've spoken before in the past, George, about hooking up, how we hook the two systems together, and what customers will want to do. So, that would be an area that we would want to go into. So, that's where we're at, and we've finished the migration from Keystone now. That is to say, all the software functionality that was in Keystone is now in the new platform. So we're now neck deep in implementations, if I'm honest. It's busy.
Dave from
Origin. Just bring in Bex, actually. Sorry, George.
Sorry. I'm just saying, Dave from Origin. Are you there, David? Perhaps stepped away from his machine. Sorry, Richie.
It's okay. Can I bring Bex in? She's put a note in the chat around a project they're doing internally about what information they've got and the best way of managing it to deliver the building safety case. Do you want to come in and have a little chat around that, Bex?
I will come in. Hi, yeah. In the interest of sharing, or turn my camera on, shall I? In the interest of sharing what the progress we're making at Live West, it's become very apparent that the data we've got is dispersed around the organization in various different locations. And so we did talk to a few external consultants about delivering sort of a digital solution for the building safety case, and linking it to ideally an information model and all of that really great best practice stuff. But what became clearly apparent very early on is that the structure of our data internally was the first hurdle to sort of cross in delivering a single source of truth kind of building safety case approach. So our IT team, they've started a sort of an information property information project where they are assessing all the information we have in all our different locations so that we can start bringing that all together. And I know that we are keen to deliver this dashboard style safety case internally, that we do have the appetite for that. So that's kind of a side project to be able to deliver that. And I know that we have downloaded the toolkit, the BIM4Housing Stations toolkit. We're going through that because what we want to do is make what we have resilient. If we all have a standardized approach to the data that we manage and the data that we expect contractors to provide on completion, then it makes life, I mean, that's the whole point of these groups, isn't it? So that, you know, it makes all of our life, I'd say our life easier. It just makes everything work just that little bit more smoothly. So I don't have anything solid to I haven't got a plan. Or
what about what Alex was saying about the location information? Did you find that with the toolkit?
I haven't gone through it in a lot of detail. I know it's with our data team at the moment.
Yeah.
And they have that section, don't they, with the different levels, and just going through that to work out what's best for us, because, you know, that we don't also want to over what's the word,
Over-egg it.
Yeah, we want it to be usable. You know, more data that you don't use is actually just as pants as having, you know, no data.
Sure.
You know, we've got to have that fine balance of, okay, so what do we need to deliver the expectations under, for in my case, the building safety case. But I'm very much sort of like a champion of information and BIM and all of that within the organization, but it's about getting the right information. And
well, Elon Musk says delete everything and then add back in. That would be fun, wouldn't it?
The word delete. No, it's completely true though. You know, we probably hold a lot more information than we need to have to manage our assets, but that can be kept in a separate, you know, it'll be useful at some point perhaps in the future, but it doesn't need to be in that need. It
doesn't need to be cluttered, does it? That's the point.
Yeah.
But that's the management, isn't it? That's a management issue. That's a data management issue. It's 100%. A question of it being retrievable if you need it, but if not, it's not in the way.
100%.
Yeah, for different purposes. That's the point, really, isn't it? You know, it's making sure that the information that you need can be presented as a subset for a particular activity.
Yeah, and that's what they've done in the initial information requirements document that the project management team for this project have done. They went through every department in the organization, worked out what information they have, what they need, where they find it, and that was their sort of, okay, cool, so this is what everyone needs, this is what everyone has, this is what everyone owns. And that process has been elongated quite substantially because there's a lot of things everywhere, I think, is just the easy way to say this, and it's just working out how best to manage that going forward, so that, you know, we can not just deliver what I need in terms of legislation, but other departments can use that same process and the same data structure, and it just works. So it's an organizational change, and it has come from the top. You know, we've recommended our staff and everyone's had their input, but it's a change in work culture. It's a change in all of this, all of that big stuff as well, to feed down into what we're talking about, which is, you know, the nuts and bolts of what we need in terms of BIM and all of that.
Excellent, thank you. That's been really. Kelly, did you want to say something?
Yeah, we've done very similar to what Bex has done, which I want to kind of champion the benefit of that, and we're kind of trying to move it forward. We're hoping to bring dynamics in the future. I say future because we don't know when it's going to be, and we've got an opportunity now as a business to be able to define how we want to hold our information. Basically, because I'm not the asset managers, I don't control the asset set, but by looking at the asset set, I can see that it doesn't work, and it works for one set of people, but it doesn't work for the wider organisation. So we've been working with Chris Lees to look at the UK data standards, and so the project that we did on Beckton, because it was a pilot, we have actually modelled our current data structure so it's usable from that point of view, but we've also put it into the UK data standards as well. So we've actually got the whole concept modelled out on how it would look with the spatial information, how we can hold that data to that level, so that, like what Alex said, that we know where everything is at every, and that's so critical for me, because operationally I used to manage all of the fire safety, well, all of the M&E equipment, and it was so infuriating. I knew what we had, but I didn't know where it was. So trying to get replacements, cost savings by doing it in this way. Our next step is now to get our very large organisation to buy into, that's the change we need to make. So next month we've got 90 critical people from around the business, and we're spending 2 days presenting to them this project. But we've got Chris coming in presenting the full concept of the UK data standards, because we're very aware that our asset information is one small part of the data standards, and what we want to do is adopt the whole concept, because in effect the journey for Dynamics, we've done 12 months of the work by adopting that, so we will be a cost saving to the business, and we're trying to showcase this is the difference. So we're going to be showing them how, and we're using fire doors as an example because that's the one that went down to that intricate level. We've actually modelled out all of the UK data standards onto the fire door in the 3D model to show them, like, this is what our current systems hold, this is what Kobe holds, but actually this is what we can hold. And we went on a journey for 8 months defining the low level requirements, the attribute levels, how the fire door one is done. We're nowhere near, because obviously it needs a group collaborative approach to it, but we have spent 8 months going across the whole business, like Bex, just saying what do you need, what would be useful to you, and then looking at the technical side of things, saying what we should be holding. And we've gone on the journey not just from fire safety and structural safety, we've done it for the whole asset. We've looked at everything. We are recording those sessions, and we're going to be recording we're going to cut it so that we've got an internal version for our wider staff, but we're going to do one that we can actually present out to everybody. So once that's done, we can give you a copy. And also we're recording Chris as well, so that he's got a promotional video for the UK data standards, but we're very aware that we need to champion that as well, like getting everybody on the same page, cost saving, better for contractors. So by the end of November, we should have some videos that we can share with you if you're interested on what our journey is and what we're trying to do.
Very, very much so.
I mean, just picking up on that, the work of you've both been involved in the Golden Thread Initiative projects that we've been working with. But one of the interesting things is, like your fire door, if you ask the subject matter experts what information we need to know about a fire door, the response generally has been it depends. And it depends is one of the critical things, because it depends on what wall it's going into. You know, it depends on this and it depends on that. So there's a whole range of different information sets that need to be hidden from people unless the it depends kicks in. Yeah, so that's really that's the approach that we've been taking with this, to because for under certain circumstances you'll need 3 bits of information that nobody else needs, but unless you've got them, then you're not able to address it. Yeah, so that's what we've been trying to work on, and simply looking at it from the point of view of what information can you put onto in attributes on a Revit model is too simplistic, really, because you need to have those different views by function.
Okay, we've got about 4 or 5 minutes left. Oh, sorry, Jack, did you want to say something?
Yeah, so I mean, I was just going to back up what's been said, really, and as well your point as well, Richard. In fact, the kind of deleting and starting from scratch. I mean, we obviously didn't delete anything, but we didn't go around, you know, asking where we have information. You know, we sat down and worked out what information we felt was necessary, and then from that working out which we kind of have data in three sources. It's either geometric in the 3D model, database, or documents. And so working out, right, well, where do we want that information? Do we want to be able to, filter across the stock? If we do, we want it in the database. If we don't, documents fine, and then people can find it if they really need it. But so it's a bit like both Bex and Kelly saying in terms of thinking about it, trying to understand the data, defining it, what areas you want, how you'll use it.
So categorizing your data, not so much on its how it's utilized, but on so the methodology of actually finding it, or whether you need to find it.
Yes, I guess trying to take everything into consideration, and look, a lot of this is grey areas, and it's okay. Well, we store it as a document. Well, that takes someone, kind of 3 minutes to find, let's say. Whereas if it's in the database, it takes 30 seconds, and if you're doing that across a whole load, it's a real pain. So you want to get it right, but at the same time, you don't want to overpopulate and have it hard to find things. So it's there's a lot of difficulty there. And then if we're trying to look at buildings holistically, do we want, so we're looking to put things as part of systems. So that's the external wall system that is made up of the cladding, the flues, the windows, etc. And so we've got elements in a system, and it's setting out all the definitions for that. Well, what do we consider the external wall system to be? What do we consider a door to be? What do we consider a floor level to be? Thinking about the locations, the spaces, etc., and just defining it so that when someone asks what is that, or it goes to a contractor to fill out information, we can simply pass that across, and we can have all these good systems, but if we're not ensuring that good quality of data through having definitions, etc., then it doesn't really matter. We might have a great place to store it and find it, but if the data is still rubbish, then it's
yeah. Absolutely. Alex, do you want to kind of are you still there? Can you talk?
Yeah, I'm still here, but I'm driving through rural.
Oh no, I was just going to say, do you want to kind of like finish up?
I'm starting to watch signal. But sorry, go ahead, Richard.
No, I don't think you can. Oh, well, I will then. So, has anybody got anything crucial they want to add, or should we finish on time?
Just say I really
I think
enjoyed that. Actually,
that's unanimous,
that was a really
isn't
good
it?
Meeting. Actually,
Very good. No, I think it's been very, very good. It was slow to start, but we got going, didn't we?
Great.
That's what we like. Excellent, excellent.
Well.
You'll all receive transcripts, videos, and high point document of this when it goes out to the leaders, who I think puts it out to you. And see you in a couple of months. Well, see some of you tomorrow.
Thank you.
Okay.
Thank you.
Cheers, guys.
See you later. Bye.